This week's Parsha is Parsha's Mishpatim, which after last week's Parsha, Yisro, seems kind of anticlimactic in as much as that we're dealing with dinim, all kinds of halachas, especially to do with Nevad Ivri, different halachas to do with different situations of damage between Adam Lechavero, between man and his fellow man. There's all kinds of different halachas and things that apply to running a civilized society on a daily basis. And it's not exactly the type of narrative, the type of exciting events that we had in last week's Parsha Yisrael, the giving of Torah Har Sinai, and what's going to come later on towards the end of the Parsha with the famous words of Nasav and Nishma, and Moshe Rabbeinu going up to get the Luchos, and all the Parsha. We've a little of a break coming up in terms of Truma and Tetzav. I don't know if you can exactly call it a break, because basically it's technical, dry halacha for the most part. And people read the Chumash as a storybook. They want to see events. They want to see things, exciting things taking place. And, halacha shir, Hilchos Shulchan Aruch, to learn the various different halachas that apply to everyday life. But I think it's interesting to point out that in as much as Parshas Mishpatim starts off kind of dry from a story point of view, that it's actually not that way in the Zohar. In fact, the whole concept of Gilgulim, of reincarnation, and the idea of tikkun, coming back to rectify oneself in a different life or many different lives, basically comes out of this week's Parsha, Parsha Mishpatim, of all places, dealing with, in fact, the whole concept of the Eved. You would never know this from the surface of things. Look at the Parsha, the Psukim themselves, the verses themselves. You would never figure out that this is talking about Gilgulim, or alluding to Gilgulim. But if you open the Zohar, in Parsha Mishpatim, you'll see Rav Hamnuna, who is called the Saba of Mishpatim. And he speaks about, the whole concept of Gilgul, of reincarnation. And the Rizal, which we'll take a look at B'ezras Hashem in a second, and Shar Gilgulim, who elaborates on a lot of these ideas and concepts, halachas, and different ideas to do with reincarnation, is based upon the Zohar, based upon this week's Parsha. So I thought it would be interesting to see one example of this idea, especially with Purim coming up and Pesach coming up. And the main theme of Yiddishkeit, for the most part, is that nothing really is what it seems to be on the surface, meaning that you have to understand and appreciate that whatever looks so basic and simple is rarely that way. And our job is to use our mind and our free will to choose to do it, basically to investigate. Shivim Pamim Torah, there are 70 phases of Torah, and the Arba Nichnas of Pardes is Pardes, Pshat, Remez, Drush, and Sod, the simple explanation of the Pasuk, and the Remez, the hint, and the Drush, which is the exegetical teaching, or the Gemara level, the Talmudic level, and so of course is Kabbalah, shows you that we have an obligation to go past the surface. The Greeks were seeing is believing. The scientific world today is seeing is believing for the most part. If I can't see it, I don't believe it. Although even they're breaking their own rules now with quantum mechanics, quantum physics, because mostly it's theoretical at this point. But God is in the details, and God is also below the surface. Ultimately speaking, Sod Kabbalah describes the reality as it actually is, because reality is very Kabbalistic, meaning it's extremely spiritual, extremely deep, and at one point in time, in the future, in Yemos Mashiach, we will have the Torah Tzitzilas, the Torah of Mashiach, the level of the first Luchos that Moshe first brought down from Har Sinai, and that's what we'll go back to, and our Torah won't be so din-oriented, so din-based in the future, because without a Yitzhahara, you don't require the dinim. The mitzvahs are eternal; they go on forever. But they don't have to command us, because we will naturally do that which God sees is right for us to do and to live by, because we'll see the world as God sees the world. That's the whole concept of tzaddik. The whole concept of your shemaim is that you tend to look at the world the way God sees the world. Not doing an aver is not because you're afraid of punishment, but because you also recognize it's a waste of life. It's a waste of opportunity. And you'll use your free will to do exactly that which makes the most amount of sense given the mandate of my separations of creation, and we're here to accomplish that. So anyhow, it starts off with a commandment to make sure that Moshe spells out the entire Torah the way it's supposed to be understood for everybody. It should be like a Shulchan Aruch, as Rashi points out, meaning it should be accessible, understandable. You can't simply teach the halach and walk away and leave people scratching their heads, saying, what are we talking about over here? It has to be understandable because you have to live by Torah. To live by Torah, you have to understand it. So then it goes quickly into the whole halacha of an eved. Ki sikna eved ivri. When you purchase a Jewish, you should call indentured slave, right? A servant, somebody who to pay off what either he stole and he can't pay back, or he's too poor to earn a living, so therefore he sells himself to act almost like an apprentice for the most part. The Gemara says when a Jewish master acquires a Jewish servant, he basically acquires a master for himself, because the halachas of how you have to treat a Jewish servant are quite specific and quite fair. So it says, when you acquire him, Sheishanim Ya'avod, for 6 years he will work, V'shviz Yetzei L'chashi Chinam, right? And the 7th year he will go for free. He goes up for free. He doesn't have to buy back anymore his freedom. He has worked off what he is supposed to work off. Im begapo yavo begapo yetzei. V'im balash ishahu yetza ishto imo. Right? If he comes in basically single by himself, then he goes out single. But if he came in with the wife, he goes out with the wife. Right? So that's the halacha. Basically, as noted here in the Chumash itself, and in Shar HaGilgulim, which is the 8th section of the writings of the Arizal, as written down by Rav Chaim Vital, and this is Hakdama 8, the 8th Hakdama. They're all called Hakdamas all through the book, because everything basically the Sefer, as he points out, is only an introduction. It's not the full story, right? But he says the following thing: Be'inyan Gilgal and Neshamas, regarding the whole matter of the reincarnation of souls, Lama Misgalgalim. Why do we have to reincarnate? Daki Neshamas is Galgalil the Kamasibo. There are many reasons why a soul has to reincarnate, right? Harishon, the first one, who? Lefisha Avar al Eza Aver Averis Shabbatar, because a person he did Averis, he did specific Averis in the Torah itself, right? And he has to Balatakan, he comes with Matakin. That's providing that during the lifetime he wasn't able to do it, or he didn't do it, he failed to do it, because either he didn't care or didn't understand the mistake that he did wrong, or he died before he had a chance to do tshuva, so he's chayiv to come back and to rectify, right? The second reason, the second reason is, the takin as mitzvahs shechas remain. Everybody is chayiv to fulfill every mitzvah in the Torah. And he's going to explain how it's possible, for example, if I'm not a Kohen, then how are the mitzvahs of Kohen applicable to me? There's a mitzvah to divorce one's wife, God forbid, if a marriage fails. But if, thank God, a person's marriage succeeds, so how can they fulfill the mitzvah of divorce? He speaks about things like that. There's all kinds of mitzvahs that aren't always relevant at all times of history. How am I supposed to? It's not fair. There's no Beis Hamikdash today, so I can't do all the halachas incumbent upon me as a simple Jew in the Beis Hamikdash. And being a Levi, I can't do all the responsibilities of a Levi, right? So how is it fair in this lifetime that I cannot fulfill mitzvahs that I have to do anyhow at some point in time? So he talks about that, how basically Gilgulim plays a role in allowing us to be able to fulfill mitzvahs that are missing from our cheshbon, from our own life of protection through Gilgulim. Right? That's the third reason. Hashlishis, he Shabbat l'tzorach acher. You're coming back for somebody else. In other words, you don't have to come back for yourself. You are not missing a mitzvah. You do not have an avera to rectify. Right? You're coming back for the sake of others, l'adricha metaknam, to guide them and to rectify them. You're coming back as a helper for somebody else. Hinei harishana hi karo lechet. Right? So the first reason, he's close to chet. In other words, he did a chet. He's got a shaychet to chet. He's somebody who's not always doing the right thing according to the Torah.